starting point of the model. And because we've changed it to 1, it should be a nice easy measurement to actually do. 0.5 I think that might be. But I've just noticed I've forgotten to change the origin of the object. The origin is the little yellow dot, and I want it to be on this face. So I'm in edit mode and I select that face with the face tool, and then your camera keyframes in the right spot so that you get a nice effect. Move it round till you get the position you want to start in, and then go eye over the empty boxes, translation boxes, or rotation boxes, sorry. I've got a starting point. Now I need an ending point for my rotation, and I'd like it to rotate somewhere about halfway through the falling cube. That's just for me. You just play with these settings till you get the effect that you would like, the thing that you like to see. I'm moving the camera on the Z-axis in the rotation boxes, and then I go eye and put a keyframe in. Now it all might be too fast. You can go back and adjust all of these settings till you get them so that they fall and rotate all at something that looks good. I spend a fair bit of time just playing with this to try and see what I like the best. To check the lights more, now it's best to go into the render view, and you can see how it's gone slightly darker. That means that some of our lights are not strong enough, but so we can have a look at some of those and position them. I've got two lights. All I did was Shift D and copy the first light that was there on the when I opened it up by default. Now I look down on the top view, number pad 7, and then I rotate the lights around until they're pointing at my objects. I then check it in the other views, 1 and 3, just to check to make sure that the light is pointing at my object properly. So I'm getting some shadows there which look nice. That's what I'm trying to achieve. I'll get the two lights, and I've got a little bit of colour on the lights. You can change that to whatever you like. I'm changing the green, the S shape, to a green on mine. You can pick whatever colour you want. There's no problem. Figure out what looks good for you. Now that's catching some lights from the light. You can see the shadows and so on. Now I've selected the cube, and I'm going to give the cube some emission. I'll turn it up and give it some colour emission, just to see what sort of effects you get. You can change that to whatever you like, and the emission strength is important. It can look a bit strange if it's too much, or if it's not enough, then give it some more. It's up to what you want to do. Now that gives us some light reflections as it falls, because the light now, a lot of the light now is coming from that cube, and it's called emission. That will just about do me for the rest of the time. I'm really just trying to fine tune to get more reflections. At the moment I'm in the plane, and I'm trying to see whether I can get more reflections. I'll change it to the render view. I thought I had it in render view, but it's not. It wasn't. It's a little bit dark now. I need to get more light onto the project.